All right, welcome to another 3-day series. Today, I'm very excited about this specific one. So, we are going to take a look at the mesh, decimation, and wireframe subdivide, right? So, we have the embodied, upside down, and reaching. So, I love working with bodies inside of 3D software, inside of Cinema 4D. Pretty much, I love doing that, and uh, and the way I work around bodies is through DAZ Studio. So I used to work a lot with DAZ Studio, and I'm probably gonna have another separate video on Patreon about DAZ Studio and how to achieve some of the mesh that I have. But as you can see here on the site, I used to do this back in 2016, right? So I have a lot of body parts hanging around here and there, and I've been trying to do some poses. I've been trying to work a lot with the skin, and I ended up doing a lot of stuff, even with CPU rendering. After that, I was able to get slowly in. So these were made inside of Corona render, right? Back then, when it was first introduced in alpha for Cinema 4D, great render engine. Corona has been a great turning point in my workflow. I was finally able to add glare and bloom, which was impossible in the physical render of Cinema 4D. And yeah, so I did a lot of stuff using bodies. This is one of my favorites. So I'm going to show you. I'm just opening this up in another tab for now, because there's a lot of stuff happening here. Let's see. Yeah, and after that, when I finally got inside of Octane, I was able to kind of master a little bit more the skin rendering. And yeah, so there's a lot of stuff to show you around the mesh. So this doesn't really have to do with the decimation part, but just that I loved working with bodies. So, this, and I'm actually using some of these models inside of the project we are going to see now. But yeah, these are some of the project that I used to make. Right, so Natalie. This one is one of my favorite one. I do have a print somewhere available. I actually printed this and I gifted this to a friend of mine. Very nice prints. I have some animated one using Mixamo. So yeah, I hope I will get back into Mixamo at some point. Using mocap, but I'm still not at that point inside of Blender. Yeah, so this was created. So I created a tool in Octane to actually create skin, right? So this looks really nice. And I really want to be able to achieve that again inside of Blender. But yeah, hopefully I will have another video with a series, backstage series of skin texturing. But for now, this is what we have. 3 mesh. I did this one inside of DAZ Studio using one of a preset pose and Genesis 9 female model. So yeah, I'm not gonna get into DAZ Studio for now in this video. But I just wanted to share some software that I used to make these. This was made using one of my model. So if you go inside of the TFMSTYLE bridge library, 3D asset packs, everyday. If you own the everyday asset pack, you can actually have it here. So I think it was. Let's go to pose here to have all the pose. Was this one? Ava, this one or another one? or Lucy. I think it was Lucy, right? And you can download this for Cinema 4D file and OBJ file. I might have a Blender file at some point, but yeah, it's a little bit too soon to include every asset that I have for Blender as well, but it will happen at some point. So, right, let's get inside of the first project, embodied project. So the inspiration came from a short YouTube video that I saw with a couple of different Blender tips. I saw, a small snippet, like 5 seconds, of a cube being decimated, and I just love the way it worked. We don't have something similar inside of Cinema 4D. We used to have a Voronoi kind of texture remeasure. It was kind of weird, very slow, but this looks nice. I mean, look at this details, right? There's still some issues here and there, as you can see. This is caused by the wireframe, I think. So let's enable the cavity so we can actually see a bit better. And yeah, So this is two different model. So we have the bubble, which is the inside part, and the decimate part. So I'm going to close this one. Yeah, I need to to close it here. So right. So we have this model. So the way it works is you actually need to select the Genesis model. And as you can see here inside of the geometry node, I simply have a subdivision surface and a set material. You don't need to have that. You can actually go inside of the modifier tab here and add a subdivision modifier here. So the way this works is, let's close all of that. We have our mesh. So this is the default kind of mesh that I exported from DAZ Studio. And from there, I added a decimate modifier. So, right, let's open up the modifier, and we need to open up the wireframe so we can actually see what's happening. And in the decimate modifier, we have three options. We have collapsed, and this will actually just collapse the mesh. So decimate the mesh as it is, without any constraint apart from the symmetry that you can select. And I don't know how to use this yet. You can triangulate when there's a square, polygon, and that's pretty much it, right? The other option is the unsubdivide. So this will try to unsubdivide the mesh, right? So it's kind of looks for the topology of the actual mesh and just try to unsubdivide it the best it can. So this will give you a better outcome when it comes to decimation. So if you want to retain the geometry of the mesh that you will have a better chance to do that with the unsubdivide option rather than the decimate collapse option, right? Because here at some point you just lose your geometry, but here you can keep a lot of those nice details that you can have here on the face at least. So yeah, this is the second option. And the third option is a planar decimation. So the idea behind the planar decimation is it has to do with the degree of pointiness, right, between each point, and that's how it can identify the angle limits at which Blender will create a new polygon for that mesh. So of course, it introduces as well a lot of artifacts, so you have to be careful about that. And we have a delimit. So I'm not really sure what these affects. You just have to play around with it. So in this case, I'm going to keep it at normal. I'm going to unclick all boundaries and try to try to find a topology that I like. So I think this looks nice. And after that, once you have your mesh decimated, you can actually add a wireframe modifier. And this will actually create a wireframe based on those kind of stitches that we had. So we can replace the original mesh that is behind it. So as you can see here, this is just a hollow mesh simply with this wireframe, or we can leave this on and have the whole mesh with the wireframe on top of that. So this depends on the look you are looking for. I have another series that will come in a couple of days where I'm actually utilizing these, and I can show you here. If I go to my latest project, which is this one, the honey one, you can actually see here that I have the mesh and a wireframe on top of that, right? But I will get to that once I get to that project. So yeah, so in this case, I'm gonna click replace original, and we have our wireframe. We can change the thickness, so you can offset the position of the wireframe. So I'm gonna keep that at 0. And after that, to be able to create those kind of nice honeycomb, smooth, organic mesh is to add a subdivision. So this is where the geometry node comes, and the only thing that I added here was a subdivision surface. Yeah, so let's open this up. It's gonna take some time, right? And now, as you can see, we have our decimated mesh wireframe subdivision. And I just love the way this works, right? And you can actually go back to the wireframe and add thicker lines. So I'm going to try one. Hopefully this won't crash Blender. 0.5. Yeah, I'm going to keep it as it is here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. After that, of course, I wanted to add something inside of the mesh. So I decided to just duplicate my Dash Studio model and add some spheres into it. So I'm going to go to my mesh here, and I'm going to jump inside of the geometry node system. And I'm gonna close this off so you can actually see what's happening here. So this is an easy setup to follow. We have our mesh, right? We change that mesh to a volume. We distribute point to that volume. We create instances on points, which are icospheres. I am randomizing the scale thanks to a noise texture, as you can see here. And you can actually control here the position of the noise and the scale of the noise. And here you have finer control over how the gradient is applied. I added a gray one because if you add black, it's just going to be invisible. So you can actually control this as you want. Some distortion, because why not? And after that, set shade smooth and set a material, and that's pretty much how I was able to achieve this look. And when you add this on top of it, you get this type of outcome. So yeah, it's very nice. When it comes to the texturing, it's just a glass with a little bit of roughness for the balls. For the texture of the shell, I actually have some metallic roughness. And to have this kind of gold-plated shell, I added some thickness into the thin film, and I changed the value of the IOR to be able to have this golden plate. So let's take a look at the second project. So the second project is upside down. So this is a heavy file, so be careful whenever you try to open this. It's going to drain a little bit your system. But as you can see, I'm going to close the balls Right, so I think if I close this, yeah, I'm going to close the balls. And this is Ava from my everyday project asset pack, which you can find on my site. I just imported it inside of Blender and it just worked fine. The same thing, we have our modifier for this. We have a mesh decimate, wireframe, and a node system with subdivision, set smooth, and a set material option for this one. Let's take a look at the wireframe. Something that I did was add the thickness to relative. I think by default is set to even. Yeah, so even is going to try to even out all of the wireframe thickness. But in this case, I think relative is a little bit better because here it would have a smaller thickness. Yeah, and it looks a lot nicer. And our balls, so let's take a look at the balls. So yeah, the same concept as well. I didn't change anything, but there's just a lot more balls here. So, you know, be careful when opening up this project. Nothing else changed apart from the texture. But let's take a look at the third project, which is a little bit lighter, I think. And yeah, we have again another model from my everyday asset pack. And as you can see here, since this is a smaller part of the body, I was able to really define some of those wireframe, right? So I'm going to close the ball part. And you can see here how it looks. I mean, this is nice. This is looking really nice. Let's take a look at the wireframe to see the thickness. So here I use again the planar setting, and the thickness is 0.1. Boundary, replace original, and I didn't even change the thickness option. Let's try even to see what's happening. Yeah, so this introduced a lot of issues. So yeah, be careful when you're starting to have stuff like that. It's probably because of the thickness of those lines. So in this case, I'm just going to turn back this to the original value. And this kind of fixed a lot of issues. That's pretty much it. And inside of the geometry node, what's happening here? The same thing, right? Subdivision, set smooth, and set material. I'm going to open up my balls. So here in the ball settings, again, we have the same setup. And I kind of love this kind of setup here where we just have a couple of really big spheres. And yeah, I just loved this render, you know. And with the texturing, it gives out kind of a veiny type of thing situation. And let's get inside of the texturing, the shader editor. The balls is simply a glass, and the shell subsurface scattering random walk. And yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, so I love these three. You know, now I'm slowly starting to be able to figure out on my own the setups that I want to create. You know, I'm less relying on tutorials to be able to follow to create these. But yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna have a lot more stuff like this in the future. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.